Hi, question number 3. According to the medical paperwork you have found, what have you been told about how your father was treated for his medical conditions? According to the medical records that I received from the J.S.O, my father was not properly treated for his medical conditions. First, he was prescribed a heart failure diet instead of a diabetic diet. Second, he was given his daily medication of Lantus only 7 out of the 14 days and half the dosage prescribed. Next, he had complained and had suffered from hypothermia. His body temperature was 97 degrees, for which the J.S.O thought appropriate to prescribe him a sweatshirt. It is really important to note that a diabetic cannot be in a cold environment. This interferes with their circulation and can cause severe and serious diabetic complications. The fact that he had the wrong diet, the wrong food, not the proper medication, and was in a cold environment and not properly treated for his hypothermia all contributed to my father's death. My father had undergone several urine and blood tests which showed serious and severe kidney failure and compromise. This was never followed up on by the J.S.O clinic or any medical personnel. He never received any treatment for this. This played a fact in my father's death. When he was admitted to the hospital on June 24th, he had renal failure. My father had suffered an attack of Crohn's disease while he was in the J.S.O clinic. He insisted he go to the hospital. He was in severe pain. He needed to be treated with IV medication, which he had done several times over the past years. The J.S.O clinic's response to him was, "You did not say you had Crohn's disease when you were admitted, so we will not treat you as if you had Crohn's disease," and then sent him back to his cell. On the morning that my father collapsed, he had a very seriously low blood sugar reading. This was never retested, followed up on. He was instead transported over to the courthouse, probably because the clinic and the jail figured that he would be released that day and that he was no longer their concern. Unfortunately, they should have done a follow-up blood sugar reading, and they would have seen that his blood sugar was not good. It was not where it should be. The doctors at the hospital told me that he would have had many overt symptoms and that they should have given him medical attention many hours before. When he arrived at the hospital, his body temperature was 93 degrees. He was septic. These physical facts cannot be disputed no matter what claims or what records or whatever the J.S.O decides to present, invent, or otherwise record. Facts speak for themselves. My father died slowly over hours, over the whole morning in their holding cell where they did absolutely nothing to help him. They left him there to die. When they identified my father on June 10th, Trooper Zell told me that she used the hospital papers, which showed his AMA, again, he left the hospital against medical device papers, to identify him. Not his wallet. His wallet had been in the backseat of his car, according to the photos that I have. So when Trooper Zell told me that, she thought my father had Alzheimer's disease because he did not even remember being in an accident. He didn't remember simple things like, where he was going, who he was. This coupled with the fact that he had papers that he had just left the hospital that day, the fact that he could not even walk without assistance, should have led the officers to take him to the hospital and not to the jail. This simple little change in their choice, this simple little fact would have saved his life. Next, tell us a little bit about your father. What do you remember about him? Honestly, what I remember about my father, it's really hard to think about my father. What I've been thinking about my father when I think about him is how he died, the circumstances around his death, and the fact that he didn't have to die. When I have to read through his medical reports and all the reports in the jail to see how he was treated, what his body suffered, and what he went through all alone, it just rips my heart right out of me. When I do think about him, and I try to think about the good times, I think of all the holidays we spent together. For him, family was really important. We'd always get together in the holidays, and he loved to cook. This was his passion in life. He would make his rabbit stew and eel and all these special little dishes that basically only he liked, and we all just pretended we liked. But it was the best memories that I have. We used to talk on the phone. We had a very special bond. We'd talk about simple little things like the weather or things like that. Or we'd talk about very personal things, how we felt about things, how we were really doing. We could lean on each other. And it's hard for me to know that I will never get to see him, never get to have him come visit me here in California. He will never see his grandchildren grow up. He was very close to my oldest son, Alex. It's just really, really, really hard, and I don't even think I even can believe it to this day that my father is really gone. It just doesn't seem real. If he had died naturally, he had an accident, or he was sick, I think it would have been much easier to accept, because it would just be a part of life. This wasn't part of life. This was something that was not intentionally done, but was negligently done, was carelessly done, and did not have to happen. What breaks my heart the most, I think, is for my grandmother. This was her only son, and she has not dealt with his death. She cannot accept his death. She cries every day. She misses him more than anything. She relives this every day. So at this point, until all this is resolved, it's really hard to remember and reminisce about the good things about my father. And I really, really want to do that, because he was a good man, a good father, and a good grandfather.